Hey guys, I don't know if anybody has joined me yet, but we're going to go ahead and kind of get started. Uh, so, where'd it go? There it is. I've got a job to do at the American Doghorn Museum. Okay, get that feedback out of there. All right, so hopefully you can see this fairly easy. And go ahead and we're going to put this on some stainless steel knives. And the knives are, oh, they're actually knife blanks. And so I've already done one side on this one here for the boar's nest. Um, to get this really good black bark, what I'm using is a speed of 100 and a frequency of 45, Q pulse of 1, and lines per inch is 1,000. Uh, Actually, it marked first time. I didn't even really have to do a crosshatch. And the idea here is for production. So I'm going to go ahead and take this crosshatch off and, and actually just do a 0 degree. I don't see any need for having the other one here. And we'll go ahead and do that. And for some reason, I am buffering really bad, folks. I hope this comes out okay. Oh, let's set this in. Oh. Let's frame it up and see what it looks like on the. That's going to be way too big. One thing is kind of a professional thing you don't want to do is you do not want to any part of the engraving on the bevel of a knife. You want to keep it all in the flat. Um, there we go. Now I could do something like this, but I don't really like that, nor do I, because that's actually going to be covered quite a bit. So I really think it'd look better right up here on this here. That looks good. What is my It's just a fast, simple way. It's not necessarily the best way, I guess, but it does give me a good reference. And let's go ahead and hmm, that should do it. I like that. Ouch. Oh, hell. I'll get you focused in a minute. There we go. These UV lasers, I tell you what, they are something else. Uh, okay. All right. Word to the wise, if you ain't noticed, I've done dedicated a little bit of donut or contributed a little bit of the blood to the knife gods. So I need to be careful messing with these things. Now, if you guys ever want any knives, I'm a wholesaler and dealer with all of these different knives. You sure enough contact me, and I can get you some knives to do on your own laser. Um, Everything from the fairly cheap knives, if you will, to the more expensive. And of course, guys, if you're working, use them, even for these little things. Because it can come back and bite you if you don't. What's everybody got going on today? Anybody out there working on their own stuff? I'll tell you what, I really like working with this UV laser. Once you've got the settings, you can really put some mark down. You don't have to worry about cutting into the metal. And with stainless, if you engrave it, run it too hot, all right. probably could have got this going a little bit faster if I was a little more in the had everything set up a little straighter, but it's all right. I'm having to cut the plastic to get to these. So an interesting thing about this diagram on here is for the American Doghorn Museum, and I'm an assistant curator for the museum, and we have dog horns or calling horns or hunting horns, and we have one of the largest collections in the world of actual calling horns, and some as old as the 1800s. And so yeah, it's the same thing that the settlers used, that you might have seen. I can't remember who it was, but on the John Wayne movie for the Alamo, you've seen one of the trappers walking around with a horn on his hip, and that's basically like the stuff that we have. And these knives are actually going to have warthog tusk for the handles. All right. So now we're going to change our graphic around. I got this batch here done. So we're going to change the graphic around a little bit. I'll actually let you see what I'm doing there. So I like working a lot in the same screen. I'll have 4 or 5 different graphics imported over into here that I'm going to be working from. And I'll just move one graphic out of the way, bring in the other, and frame it in. I'm actually going to bring that up just a touch smaller. Okay. And we can actually bound this out. And that sometimes makes it a little easier for you to see where it's going to be. Now, one of the things, again, that I want you to notice is that I'm not getting into the bevel of that knife. You really don't want to do that, folks. When you're doing any of the knives, stay off of that cutting edge. I'll bring this camera. I don't know if it's going to let me do this or not, but we're going to see if it'll let me cheat. No, it's not going to let me do it. Sorry. But Yeah, you don't want to go into the bevel of that knife, any of the blades. Stay on the flat edges. All right, so I haven't changed my height or anything like that. And for those that might be coming in a little late, who wants to know what the settings are on this, um, we're doing 100 speed, 45 frequency, Q pulse of 1, lines per inch is 1,000, and I've got my crosshatch off, my bidirectional on, and I just it seems to work, as you can tell, work really well. Give me a good dark black mark on the stainless. I'm going to go ahead and get that started and run this batch. Remember to wear your glasses, folks. Well, if you're working on a laser. So if you've noticed, one of the things about this, as far as working with knives, and I get this question all the time, what edge to use, especially if you're working like on this skinning knife, where you have that raised point and you've got that curve up on the top. Well, obviously you don't want to run with that curve. I like to use my bevel as my line. That's usually a straighter line, but basically I select a straight line, and that's the one I stay to. All right, so that one's done. As you can see, even with the 5 watt laser, UV laser, you can still move pretty fast. I mean, and you can get a beautiful mark on stainless. And the nice thing about having the UV compared to a standard fiber is that you don't have to worry about cutting into the stainless, actually doing an engrave into the stainless. Now, if you wanted to engrave the stainless, then a UV is not going to be your choice. But if you are doing customer knives, the fact is you do not want to cut into stainless. It changes something with the um, chemical structure. I don't know. And it will cause it to rust where the engraving is. Um, the heat in that area, that localized heat, will cause it to rust. Now, this is basically the same as an anneal or black mark, Z mark. There's numerous names, but that's all it's going to do. It is a permanent mark. It's not going to scratch off, but I mean, you might be able to grind it off, but that'd be about the only way that you would take the mark off this blade. It's not going to wear off or anything like that with the UV laser. And you can run a pretty fast production, especially if you got your P's and Q's set up, unlike me right now. It's been a bit of a crazy day. My dad's in the hospital. Whatever that crud's been floating around, and he has So of course it jumps right down into his lungs, and so we had to take him, and they're treating him for that stuff. And then my dog went into labor today, and I had to take her to the vet to get a C-section. So it's been nuts. Okay, everything's good there. I'm actually a little bit off on that edge. There we go. I've actually got more of these to do, but I've got to pick them up from the customer. Whoops. Oh. And these have got what I call a factory edge on them. So they're not too bad. But I do have to warn you that when you order some higher end knives, that factory edge can be razor sharp. And you really want to be careful about how you're handling these knives because they can open you up very quickly. Um, if anyone is interested in buying some knives from me, you're more than welcome to PM me. I'm on Facebook, Laser to Leather, and if you already, or if you need them marked, I can mark them for you, or I can send blanks to you at a really good price. That one's already marked. Okay. So all of the knives are done. And I was kind of thinking about it. Thought, man, you know, it'd be kind of cool to be able to do these boxes with the American Doghorn Museum and the Boar's Nest. So we're going to let you get back in here on the display. We're going to close this out. And we're going to design a box set up. I'll actually bring this down just a little bit. I want this a little bit bigger, a little more prominent. Oops. Tyler. See how that looks. Frame it out. It's actually fairly small. Let's go ahead and you guys are going to laugh at my measuring tool here, but it works. And more importantly, I don't have to worry about scratching my lens up. That's what I'm concerned about. All right, so I have never cut or I have never marked paper. Now, that's going to be interesting. We are going to bring this up to 3 on my Q pulse because I really do want to turn that down a little bit. And we're going to speed this up to 1500. Not 15,000, 1500. And I am going to run this down to 800 on my lines per inch. Sorry about that, guys. I've been talking and didn't have you on here. All right, so speed 1500. I'm going to keep my frequency. You know what? I'm actually going to bring that up to about 80. And I've got my Q pulse set at 3. And my lines per inch set at 8. I'm actually going to run this up a little faster because I do not want to screw this box up. So we're going to set it at 2000. Remember, if you're doing something you've never done before, you're testing out something new as far as paper or whatever, jack that speed up. You can always bring your speed down as long as you don't move the box and run in the same spot. But you got that speed jacked up, you got your frequency jacked up, and your Q pulse turned up. That's going to lower your power down and less chance of burning something. This way you can run it. If it's not dark enough, you can slow it down a bit. So we're going to see what this does on paper. or cardboard. And frame it up again. We'll get you back to where you can see what's going on. Adjust my. Oh, I don't know if I want to try to center this. All right, let's see what that's going to do. Okay, so I'm marking, but it's really, really light. And that's okay. It tells me, what I need to do to fix it. And I'm not messing my box up. And that's important. So let's go ahead and go to my custom layers. Let's drop this down to 1500 on my speed. We will bring my frequency to 70, and I'm going to drop my Q pulse to 2.5. Now, I'm cheating a little bit. The best way to do this is to mess with one setting, drop that setting down, be it your speed, your frequency, or Q pulse, and leave the rest of it alone and adjust it that way. But I'm jumping a little bit. I kind of have a little more of a gauge on what my machine does. And so we should be in good. Well, it's going to make a liar out of me. This box is a little harder to mark than I figured it would be. All right. So, once again, I'm going to bring my frequency to 50 and leave everything else alone. Let's see what that does. Oh, you can definitely hear the difference now. The one thing about a UV laser that you always have to keep in mind is that it does run cool, if you will. And so your speed can really have an effect. So we're going to drop this down to 800. I could hear the difference in my frequency, so I don't want to mess with anything else. I'm hitting my paper. I can hear that in my frequency. So we're just going to bring my speed down to 800. And so that way the heat will be a little more centralized. And let's see what that does. Boom. Definitely change that up. All right. So still not quite right. So let's bring this Q pulse to 1.5. And 45 and crosshatch. This is probably going to hit pretty hard on this. Now, the interesting thing is I'm actually seeing light underneath this white paper. So I hope I didn't accidentally cut it out. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so I hit that a little harder than I wanted to, but that's all right. Oh. All right, folks. Well, we're getting in there in that 45-minute mark, so I guess I better jump off of here and kind of keep going with what I'm doing on this side. So once again, this is Willie with UV Laser Channel, Laser to Leather. Appreciate you joining me this evening. For those of you that are watching this afterwards, subscribe, and the next time I have a live show, I'll be able to send you a notification. Have a great day.